Hey folks, Mike the Disgruntled Mechanic coming to you from the Disgruntled Mechanic Garage. Today's subject is removing and installing an alternator on a 2000 Honda Civic EX. Now I already have the alternator out, but honestly it'll be better and more straightforward if I show you what I did. There's some controversy. I've seen different ways of whether you take it out from the top or the bottom on YouTube. I looked it over. This is what I thought was easier. So this is the way I went about it. There's less you have to move up top and reach down in. Very little work from up top, as a matter of fact, if you do it the way that I did. So let me show you the steps here, what I did. Number one, I removed the negative terminal. Put it out of the way so it doesn't touch, so we don't have a problem with sparking and arcing. Number two, right down there where the front of the alternator would be, where my light is showing, there is a bracket. There is a bolt that goes through that bracket to the top of the alternator, which is an adjustment bolt. So you want to take that out. That is a bit of a pain to get to. There's not a lot of room there, but you can do it. So I took nothing else out up top other than that bolt that holds it into the adjuster bracket for your alternator. Number three, I removed the tire. Number four, and of course this is your left front of the vehicle. So now, number four, I removed the plastic panel that's rolled back over there and held with a bungee. That was number four. Number five, or whichever step we may be on, watch the laser. I removed that nut off of this bottom bracket that the alternator was mounted to. Let's take this bolt out. Now of course the alternator would be mounted there, but you'll see this when I put it back together. So we take this out. And then we pry on the alternator to bring it out of its bracket. So now you can kerfuffle your alternator down here as far as you can to remove these two connectors. There is the one, watch the pointer, there's the one, and there's the other. And this one is just a push clip. You push the clip, that comes off, and that is a small nut on the alternator. You take that off, and you remove your wires. Next, what you do is you go back up to, watch the laser, you go back up to this bracket. You go to these two bolts. I don't know if you'll see them both, but you'll see them when you're under here. There's two bolts. And you remove these two bolts. Now at this point, you'll want to be careful with your alternator and watch how you have it up there. I mean, you have the wires and everything off. Make sure it doesn't fall and bonk you in the head. So now we remove that. So now our alternator is setting up here all unhooked. We just took the belt off and we snaked it down through here and it came down. So then what I did when I took the bracket out was I took this little bushing and I pushed this bushing back out so that our alternator will fit back in this bracket most swimmingly. So now it's just a matter of waiting for the new alternator. It'll be minimal time in YouTube world, but to put the alternator back in, and I will show that, so if you have any questions, that should show it. So we just got our cheap China-made alternator, which basically the other one was too. It's probably why it didn't last. But just try to make sure that they look the same. They look pretty much the same. I put the pulley to pulley. Pulley looks the same, has the same grooves. So, but let's get this back up in, see if we can get this thing back up and charging. Hope I caught that. Nothing to it. Ha! All right, so let's get the wires on. So here I am just going in the reverse order of taking it out. First thing I did was I put the alternator up, then I hooked the wires up. Next, I'll take the alternator mounting bracket that goes on the engine, put that on, and put the 2 bolts in that and tighten those up good. Then the next step I did was you put the alternator into that bracket that you just put back on the engine, and you put the bolt and the nut back on, and you tighten that up, but you only tighten it up just enough because you're going to have some play in that when you go up top and you put the bolt in the top part of the mounting bracket and you make your alternator adjustment, which I will show later. So basically that's it. You put the alternator back up in, you put the wires on the alternator, you put the bracket on the engine, you put those 2 bolts in, you put the alternator into the bracket, put that bolt in, leave it a bit loose, and of course, don't forget to put your belt back on so that's on. Also, when you are all done up top and you have the belt adjustment made and your top bolt in the adjustment bracket tightened up, make sure you do come back down to the bottom of the car and you tighten up that bolt that goes through the alternator mounting bracket to the factory specs, so that is also tight. So I don't think you're going to be able to see much, but that's the bracket right there where the laser's pointing. You see that? Follow it, kitty cat. Meow. Right in there. So we're going to put that bolt back in and then adjust the belt and tighten it. And all I'm doing at this point is putting that bolt back in the top adjustment bracket. Then we're going to tighten our alternator up in our belt to get the belt tension that we want. Once we get the belt tension that we want, we'll tighten up that adjustment bolt. We'll go down the bottom and make sure that we tighten up that bolt in the bottom mounting bracket for the alternator down on the engine. So now we're going to hook up the negative, hope we don't see smoke, start it up, and let's hope she's charging. And this was the basic way that I tested it to see if it was bad. Was just using this. So we charged the battery up good because it was definitely dead. Let's get this in the picture. 12.86 volts. .38. Okay, she's charging. That's good. So there you have it. That is fixing the alternator in a 2000 Honda Civic EX. A lot of the Hondas, I'm sure that year vintage, are the same. The only thing I got to do is put my plastic fender liner in and put the tire back on, and I think this one is good to go. So this is Mike, the Disgruntled Mechanic, saying thanks for watching. Hey, and just remember, if you can get somebody else to do it, you're probably better off. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye.